this is my mission in life, actually, is to empower empaths, because it has caused me so much kind of locking myself away and not interacting with people and not shining and not helping people, which is what I was born to do, right?
So I think
and empaths are natural healers, and they have this wonderful gift. And if you are just closing off more of your senses, it's really depriving you and the world of your beauty. And it's so important. That's why when I heard your philosophy, that's what you like to do as well. That's one of the reasons I adore you so much, is that's what you're teaching people, is to be radiant and to shine and to emanate joy. And the thing is, too, that actually helps everybody that you love. You know, it's not going to be focusing on their problems or their drama, because then you start entraining to their negativity and their fear. If you can be the most shining, radiant person around, then they start entraining to your bright energy, and then you just made the world a better place, which is what an empath's job is, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. And it's an empath's job is to first and foremost look after their own energy and get their own energy right, because there's nothing worse than empaths whose energies aren't right working as psychics or as healers, because there's just not good energy. It's like person who's got bad energy passing on bad energy. And my job, first and foremost, is to look after myself. I'm dedicated to that, and I don't always get it right, and I have big ego days, but I know it's all about me. Like, I have to look after me, and I have to get my energy right. And the natural extension of that is being a good medical intuitive, being a good healer, you know, being a good founder of a school. It always comes from that energy first and foremost. And empaths are the light workers of the world. Like, empaths are the mystics, the modern mystics, as I call them. And the empaths are really gifted men and women that can tap into the subtle vibrations of the astral planes and of people's energy fields and connect on a heartfelt way. Because empaths understand people. You know, every person wants to be seen and heard and understood. Like, that's the wish of every person. And I've read thousands of people in the past however many years, and every single person just wanted to be seen and heard by me. And empaths have this incredible ability of doing that, because for whatever reason, they know people, they get them, they hear them. But if they're not looking after their own self, it becomes very painful for the empaths. They become, you know, like tainted healers, and they just don't do good energy work. And instead of, you know, sharing the joy of their abundant and happy energy field, they're actually not doing a very good job. And that's why I also see it as my life purpose. And there again, we have something in common, to help out modern mystics and empaths to get their energy right, because we have a profound way that we can work in this world, but we got to get our energy right first.
Yes, and I want to bring this back to what we started talking about too, with the past lives and the soul purpose and the choices and all these subconscious patterns. And one of the things I've seen time and time again with empaths is that one of our biggest lessons, one of our karmic lessons, typically has been, in my experience, what I've seen is that they'll choose life circumstances where they may not get the affirmation outside of themselves that they want, because it's this delicate balance being an empath. And if you truly want to strengthen that third chakra and emanate your gifts in a way that's joyful, that's helpful for you and other people, it's important for you to learn how not to seek approval and to find that within. And so oftentimes, a lot of times, we'll incarnate into families or social situations where who we are is not approved of, like being psychic or being gay or whatever it is, or if you were just the black sheep of your family, however that works. It's really important that sensitive people learn how to get back in their bodies and not seek that affirmation. And we often choose life circumstances that will make that clear to us. And then when we accept that, we know we're not going to find it outside of ourselves until we find it first within ourselves, until we go within ourselves and give ourselves the approval of ourselves and the affirmation that we need. That, and as healers too, that you're not so focused on, did I help you? How did I do? That you're like, I'm going to channel the white light, pure love, as unconditionally as I possibly can, by being the purest channel that I possibly can, and give up, detach from the outcome of whether I did a good job or not. It's so important for empaths and healers and modern mystics to know that they need to find that approval first. And sometimes your circumstances will keep attracting disapproval until you get back in your body, strengthen your own chakras, and find that from within.
That's an excellent point, Kari, because as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about almost every single time, and I'm sure this was your experience too, almost every single time I read an empath, his or her past life history was about rejection. It was about being burnt at the stake for being a witch, or being the local midwife who was persecuted, or it was being a shaman who didn't live up to the expectations of his, shaman master, or simply failing in life, or being rejected for being different. And that is such an excellent and valid point to make. Most people that are empaths or healers or psychics, most modern mystics, have a past life history of rejection of their spiritual intuitive gifts. And people like you and I are dedicated to helping other modern mystics and light workers come out of the woodwork and embrace their mystic and psychic selves so that they can use their empath's gifts to better the world. I've always believed that magic is what heals the world. I don't think it's...
I'm all into magic.
Yeah, I don't think it... I mean, there are a lot of great causes and people are doing great things. And yes, it's about changing consciousness, as Eckhart Tolle would say too. But I really believe the magical, the enchanted, the healing, the empaths, the mystics, they're the ones that change the world. And our life purpose, your and I life purpose, is to help other mystics get to the place that we've gotten. I feel very satisfied.
Isn't that funny?
Myself.
But that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing.
I felt not like this for most of my life, and as I mentioned before, being a psychic and a medium and an empath, I mean, I came in with a lot of the hardcore gifts, which were a curse most of my life and have become a blessing now. But that was they were all dirty, dark secrets, and it's really only been the past 5 years, and more so even every passing year, that I actually feel really good about these unusual abilities that I have. So past lives are important for a lot of empaths to understand, because when they understand the rejection they had around their spirituality and around their gifts, they can then embrace their intuitive gifts, but also learn to get a strong and resilient energy field so that they can cope. Otherwise, they don't cope.
Yes. And that's what I was talking about when I said mostly that difficult path that I saw, it's mostly around rejection. And because I do feel whatever version of older souls, like you said, you can have 3 lifetimes and be a wise soul. Let's call them wise souls or whatever. But whatever it is, it's the path of individuation, where if you want to be a leader, if you want to be a light, you can't be in training to the fear around you. So it's so important that you do learn to give yourself that affirmation. I saw this really interesting thing. I saw The Secret Life of Dogs on TV, and it was so interesting because the service dogs that they choose, the ones that help blind people or handicapped people in some ways, they test them. There's actually left pawed dogs and right pawed dogs. And the left pawed dogs tend to be more assertive and make their own decisions. And
I love that
whereas
so much.
If they had to walk, say their guardian couldn't see and they had to see for them, they have to make the decision for their guardian. Let's say their guardian says walk, but they see it's not safe. They have to overstep their guardian's command and have the assertiveness to do that. So the guide dogs have that quality. And then there's more empathic dogs that are more like the sheep herders and things like that. But we need to have that balance of both, right?
Yes.
Where you have to be so strong in your own connection to your own guidance and your own intuition and your own affirmation and your own knowing of what's right. that if you're looking for approval outside of yourself, then you cannot be a light worker that you're meant to be. You can't be the leader because you have to be the one in charge, right? And so that's why it's so important that the older souls are tested in some ways. That's why you won't find that affirmation, because that's your test. That's your training to be a light worker. And that's where the acceptance comes in. That's where you can accept that, you know what, my mom may never approve of me, or, you know, this society where I live may never think that being psychic is cool, or whatever it is for you. It's that acceptance. And when you do that, it's funny, then people come flocking to you in ways that are more empowering, but you have to do it first.
Because it's about being detached to the outcome.
So detaching.
Your powerful healing work or powerful psychic sessions are always when the person has, of course, the ability to heal or to be psychic, but they're detached to the outcome. They're not needing approval or love from another person, nor are they fearing what they tell a person. When I teach people medical intuition, we start by them building up their psychic strengths through the chakra cleanse meditation. But the next step from that is that getting them to do readings for people. And that's always the most challenging, because they're new at it, so they're learning how to use their psychic gifts. But it's mostly challenging because they're so scared of getting it wrong, or they're so fearful about what the other person thinks. And that's where you have to detach, because once you lose center, so once you come out of your core energy, once you come out of, you know, your lower chakras, and you're not only anchored in your body anymore, you then lose the intuitive flow, and you don't actually really know what you're saying anymore, but you're just kind of trying to say something to hopefully make the person happy. And that's when things start to go wrong. I mean, I was tested in that in the early days. When I first started, I really didn't know what I was doing with my ability, but I would read people, and when the person would want me to read their future, for example, which I always felt was not the right thing to do, or when they'd ask me questions I didn't want to answer, I'd do it, and I'd give them a bit of psychic information, but I was actually moving out of my energy field and doing what they wanted me to do, and either I felt completely exhausted afterwards, or what I told them was inaccurate. So very early on in my career as a medical intuitive, I learned to detach myself. So when I give a session, I give it with love, but it's like I'm a scientist observing someone. I really go into a very observational viewpoint and give very factual information. Yes, there's love in my voice, and I'm direct, and I'm known for being direct and honest too in my interactions with people. But powerful healers, powerful psychics are so rooted in their self-esteem, and they so don't care at all about what people think of them, that they come from this amazing place of objectivity as well as love. And then they truly become powerful because they say what they say. And it's happened to me so many times in my career that people have said to me, what you've just said can't be right. And I said, that's fine. Either I'm wrong or either I am right. Either way was fine for me, Kari.
50-50.
Yeah. And usually they'd come back and go, oh my God, you were right. You were right about that thyroid problem. Or you were right that my dead grandmother was called Anna, or I don't know what. But see, I didn't care. And it's not that I didn't care about the person, but I felt so confident in myself. And of course I was confident because I'd been doing it for so long. I mean, you gain confidence through experience, don't you? I mean, I don't expect people just starting out to be confident because they don't know what they were doing. But I just learned to be really detached and go, okay, well, either I'm wrong here, or, you know, you're wrong and you don't know this bit of information yet. So that's what light workers and modern mystics have to learn. Yes, they need to work on their chakras to make sure that they're not leaking energy and that they're healthy and happy. And then they have to learn how to use their unique talents and abilities in the world. And we all have different ways of doing it. We all have different abilities. And that's, well, I believe that that's something that we can access in our chakra 8. And I call that the soul blueprint. And when we've got healthy lower chakras, chakra 1 through 7, we can journey up into chakra 8, and we can begin to discover our unique 12 soul essences and understand how they operate in the world. And you and I, Kari, would have very similar soul essences, but we'd also have very different ones. And the way that we use our soul essences in some ways would be similar, but would be different. So even the ones that we would share, like I'm sure we share the soul essence of the healer, and I'm sure we share the soul essence of the seer or of the psychic or of the empath, but how we express them is also individual, because we're individual people made up of all of these past life stuff and culture and family and astrology and numerology and all of that, wonderful stuff.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. We're all meant to be unique, right? And that's why you need to be strong within yourself and not trying to be everybody else, because there's one of you. So I would love to give people some wrapping up guidance on how they can integrate and implement what we've been talking about, if that sounds good to you.
Well, I'll give my 3 tips and then you can give yours, Kari, and let's see if we've got the same tips.
I was wondering. Clear your chakras, balance them, get them rocking fit. That would be one of mine.
Yeah. Okay, let's make that number 1. So what would we make number 2? We'd probably have to say self-love and acceptance, wouldn't we? I mean, you just said it so beautifully. Be your own person and don't try and be what someone else is. And I know that people throw that around a lot, those words, but it's so true, isn't it? Like when we anchor into our own energy and work with our chakras, you get quite clear quite quickly on what really lights you up and what doesn't. And so let's take that as number 2, shall we? Self-love and acceptance.
I'm all for it.
And what would you say is number 3?
Well, I'd like to elaborate on how to do that, maybe, as the third is about watching your energy when you're around other people, or even when you're thinking about what your next step is, to ask whether you're in your body, grounded in your body, grounded to the earth, and coming up with what you feel first, what your intuition's telling you first, before you think about everybody else or what's going on in their energy field, is to remind you to be in your body that way and to notice what you feel. And then you can figure out how that interacts with the world around you.
Good tip.
What do you think?
Yeah, very good. I like that. I think.
Then we'll keep it then.
That's awesome. Let's keep that. I think that's what all empaths and light workers and modern mystics need to know, because if you can't get your own energy right, you can't be a powerful person in the world. So I like it.
And most people think about everybody else before they make a decision for themselves. Most empaths, should I say. They're like, well, how would this person react? How would it affect this person? Then you're no longer in your body. You're no longer in charge of your energy field. So the 4th thing I would say.
Number 4. This is good.
Yeah, let's do this. Life is good. Bonus points is when you're seeking affirmation, notice it. Bring your mindfulness to it. Oh, look, I'm
because you
wanting
have a
this
chance
person to tell me I'm okay, or I'm wanting my audience to tell me they like this, or whatever it is. When you find yourself needing that, to give it to yourself instead, to give yourself that love and that hug and say, yeah, this is the best I did and I feel good about it. So that's the bonus tip of the day.
The bonus tip of the day. And that bonus tip of the day is also awesome. So we'll go with that. And also we have...
Thank you.
Kari, it's been lovely to have this chat with you and to be able
to integrate
share time together and to talk about our processes and our life and how we read and our philosophies. And it's always lovely to connect with kin, like soul kin, and have discussions around important things. So thank you. It's been great.
Thank you so much. It's been so wonderful for me to hear about you, and and thank you, whoever's listening, and may this bring you love and joy. Thank you.